Hey guys, HyperThermal here. This episode we had a little bit of a technical issue with some of the recording towards the beginning, but basically, we just talked a little bit about the minor origins of SlenderMan, as he was on the Something Awful forums, and we also kind of talked about how the games inspired and were inspired by Marble Hornets and other stuff. With that being said, here's the rest of the episode. Because as you're watching the series, not only does the mental state of the characters deteriorate, but also their physical being as well. Like they're constantly coughing up blood whenever the operator's nearby.
Which would later become kind of a staple of, SlenderMan series, especially video ones, It was, I believe, I don't know if it was used as heavily in Everyman Hybrid, but I'm pretty sure that they did allude to that somewhat in Tribe 12.
Yeah, yes, they did adapt that aspect
Yeah.
of the operator into their version of the Slender Man.
Yes. And I think a lot of the tropes that come into play in the later series, whether it be through writing or through video, because there's a lot of different incarnations of this thing. A lot of them take a lot of the tropes and parts of the character from this original series, and I think that's why it's so interesting to look at in context of the whole thing.
So, another thing that sort of helped cement Marble Hornets' popularity, I believe, was a little bit of the character drama and mystery, because it's not just there's a man without a face, he's following me in my dreams. No, there's more of a personalized mystery to it, where our main character, I forgot what his name in the
I believe it's
story.
I believe it's just Troy. I think that
Troy.
I think they all go by their. Well, I think Alex goes by his real name.
Most of them go by their real name. Alex's real name is Joseph.
Well, then I'm stupid.
I listen to their podcast, so that's how I know all this. Tim's real name is Tim. Brian's real name is Brian. I think Joseph's the only one who actually changed his name.
Okay.
Alright, so...
Well, I mean, I can understand why he changed his name since he's ostensibly the villain of the series.
Yeah. And that again goes back into, I think, why Marble Hornets was, popular for more than just being, there's a scary man. There's like a grander story to it all. There's a mystery. It starts off, with Troy. He's concerned about his friend Alex. He worked on this bad little movie with him that seemed to really affect him. So he wanted to go through and see what went wrong, and as he's seeing how wrong it goes, he wants to be able to get into contact with Alex and make sure that he's all right.
Yeah.
But when he goes into that house for the first time, I think you start getting some clues that things aren't just as simple as, oh, my friend is in danger, maybe I need to help him.
Well, I think the house was the first the real shit hits the fan moment or whatever, when more supernatural stuff actually started happening in the real world outside of just Slenderman appearing in your periphery vision.
Yeah. Which is strange because Maskey is as you find out, is decidedly not a paranormal phenomenon. He's just a guy in a mask.
No, he's not. I mean, we're using the term. We're going to be using the terms masky and hoodie for this, but But they were never described as that in the series.
No.
And I mean, I think that's something we'll touch on later with a sort of like fan fictionizing of the whole series and all that. But right now, it's more of a. It seems that Masky at this point is possessed, and it seems also that the house is actually restructuring itself and sort of shifting around the character of Troy when he's exploring it the various times he does.
And that's another minor thing. You don't know whether the operator is actually manipulating the environment or if he's just, using his operator sickness to distort Troy's perception of how the house is laid out, and by extension how the viewer experiences it.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, any other thoughts about Season 1?
Well, I mean, I think Season 1 was really compared to the other ones, was really the most, as I've established before, self-contained and interesting in and of itself. And while the other ones are definitely good in context of the whole thing, and I think they were pretty good on their own, I think this one was probably what, really hooked people into the series and what kept them watching throughout the whole thing. It did that for me, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a really strong start.
Yeah, the series
Yeah.
slows down a lot after that, which can sometimes be kind of annoying if you're waiting for updates on YouTube. But I think even if that was a bit annoying, I think the story that they established in Season 1 was strong enough to keep you watching throughout the whole thing.
Now, an aspect about the later seasons, that, it's a love it or hate it type thing. I think it's interesting. I know someone who actually doesn't really like how it was implemented, but in the later seasons, it focused more on the character drama and revenge plots, and it made the operator more of just some side incident. Whereas, in the first one, the character drama was as equally as important as the operator.
I actually, and I mean, this might be the diverging opinion from you guys, but I think the character drama that, happens there is probably my favorite thing about the series, and probably one of my favorite parts of
It's mine too, so
I like
I can appreciate it.
I mean, I love supernatural stories and stuff, but by the point I was finishing Marble Hornets, I'd already read a lot of blogs about SlenderMan that kind of had all similar storylines, and so I found that it was a lot more refreshing to me to it's kind of like with zombie movies. It's more interesting and important to focus on the characters experiencing this and how it affects their interpersonal relationships than the actual supernatural being and trying to explain that and all of that. And that's part of the big reason why I like both Marble Hornets and Everyman Hybrid.
All right, that's a very fair point, and I totally agree with that sentiment. So Season 2, the general plotline, Troy, he's trying to get away from the operator, trying to find Alex still, even though we as the audience know that probably isn't a good idea.
Yeah.
He goes into an apartment, and he realizes that he might not be as safe as he previously thought, and then we start seeing, actual legitimate murder during the second season. Like, I believe there was, one major element from the second season where Alex just straight up kills a dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. That was in the that creepy tunnel that they had. Yeah.
In the tunnel thing. Yeah.
I think that moment is actually really good because it helps bring everyone back up to speed because, some people might not really catch on to the fact that Alex isn't all that good of a guy, but, this is, like, legitimate proof of a breaking point for him. Like, this is where we as an audience know that...
Ask Willem.
This is the moment where we as an audience know that, not everyone is to be trusted for what they say beyond just memory issues.
Yeah.
Because that's important because, Troy's character, he's, like, forgetting stuff left and right. You see videos from To The Arc, the side channel, which we haven't even gotten into, by the way. But yeah, you see videos of Troy. He's getting really messed up.
Jay. Okay.
Oh, was his name Jay?
Troy's character's name is Jay.
I knew it started with Jay. But, I was...
Now we know. Thank you, Google.
Oh, fuck.
Yes, Google has saved us all. So, Day, if you're editing this in post, just go back and replace almost all mentions of Troy with Jay, please.
Yes, replace it with Troy's voice saying Jay. Even when it's,
Yep.
it's me or HyperThermal talking.
Yeah, just make it a YouTube poop. It'll be a grand old time.
It'll be like To The Arc, which we based our name
Arc.
off of.
To The Arc is also another really influential aspect from Marble Hornets, to the point where I think a lot of ARGs that are based on YouTube, have taken direct inspiration from To The Arc, or, even more influentially, indirect inspiration, because that would mean that the person making an ARG was inspired by someone who's inspired by To The Arc. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
To The Arc had a very interesting, visual style about it that really hadn't been seen in a lot of YouTube series before this, and I mean, I agree that it was definitely a huge inspiration for future things that were related or unrelated to the whole Slender thing. And
To The Arc is also, I think, what solidifies Marble Hornets as an ARG rather than just, just a web series.
Yeah, because of all the codes that are used in there.
Like, there's a bunch of codes, and, the people watching these videos, they're scrambling to figure out what the codes mean, and, if you see Marble Hornets, but you don't see To The Arc, and you don't know the meanings
You're only
behind...
getting half the story.
You're only getting half the story, and you're gonna have a different picture in your mind than if you hadn't seen... If you have seen it.
English.
Yeah. which I think is, it definitely shows the strengths of ARGs as a whole, where there's a lot of detective work on the part of the viewers, where you have to find what videos are related to the series, what do the videos mean, so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was also interesting because while To The Arc was making videos, Jay was kind of reacting to them in real time on Twitter, which is pretty interesting. And
that's also really good because sorry, you can go first.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say that it was interesting because it was kind of establishing the creator of the game as sort of a player himself, which, I mean, obviously he knew more, but in character, he was sort of a living key that the rest of the community could kind of revolve around and use if they were ever stuck, which I think has been adopted in future series too, that I've never seen done before that.
Alright, so, what I was gonna say, I think touches on a similar note to that, where, by having Jay respond to, these cryptic videos from To The Arc, it kind of is an official, heads up that this is something you're going to need to pay attention to. And, sometimes that can be a good thing. Like in Marble Hornets, it was good because To The Arc is actually several major characters that have already appeared and are gonna be more prominent later on.
Well, I believe it was ultimately 3 people that were part of To The Arc, that being, and use colloquially, Masky, Hoodie, and the actual person who made the majority of the videos, because if you look at the videos, you'll see that each of them have a very different style and color schemes to them that are each meant to identify which member is making them and sort of using them to communicate with each other.
That's another really good thing about To The Arc, is that it's subtle character building once you start seeing the videos from the other members. Each person has the different style, the different colors that they like to use. They have different terminologies for the same thing. They use different types of footage. And, seeing them interact not only with Jay and Alex, but even amongst themselves is an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
So, anything else about Season 2 or To The Arc?
Well, I think that was when, they started, Jay moved out of his house and into the,
he was
the
in
hotel.
the apartment. Yeah, the hotel.
Yeah, it was the hotel.
Yeah.
But
I think it was more of a motel, but I digress.
Yeah.
So, Season 3, I think, it's obviously the one that is more focused on the character drama aspect. And, it's basically just the end of the story. Like, it's an open ending, but it ends the overall story pretty nicely. There aren't any super hard-hitting, lingering questions that need to be answered in order for the ending to be satisfying.
Yeah.
Like, again, it also fits in a bit with their philosophy for Season 1, where, you know, they kind of wanted it to be a little bit self-contained, but maybe a little bit open, you know, in case they ever did want to go back to and make Marble Hornets Season 4.
Yeah.
Which they kind of ended up doing in a way with Clear Lakes.
In
Well-
a strange sense, I consider Clear Lakes 44 an entirely different beast altogether.
Well, they kind of ended up doing it, but they also kind of ended up not doing it because they canceled Clear Lakes in the end, which is...
Yeah.
That is a can of worms.
Which is sad.
I mean, we could
Yes.
talk about this. We're just talking about Marble Hornets, and it's gone pretty long
Yeah.
so far. So, I mean, maybe we should just focus on talking about stuff related to that for the rest of this episode.
THAC Productions and
Yeah.
such. I think my favorite part of their work is that even though they were so focused on doing Marble Hornets, they still found times to do other things like Tim opens a box and grapefruits are bullshit and all that fun stuff. So
Yeah.
on one hand, they have this very serious, spooky thing, and on the other hand, they're just like, hey, look, it's Tim's head in a box. Isn't that wonderful?
Like from 7.
Yeah, I think that really speaks about, you know, the strength of THAC around that time period, because they were working on, you know, a really big project that, you know, ended up being possibly one of the most influential web series in, you know, the history of online mediums.
Yeah.
And then they have the time to, you know, just make silly little videos that are like, you know, less, you know, dramatic and more like something that you would see on Balloon Shop.
Yeah. Well, they also made a trailer for Marble Hornets that was based off the...
God, that trailer is the best thing. It's so
It's a pretty good parody of, like,
It-
a shitty, like, hipster movies with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think actually that Marble Hornets trailer helps with the immersion that you have when getting into the first season, because it gives it a bit of a... It keeps it grounded to a reality. It establishes that, you know, there's a reality, there's characters that do actual human things and have human flaws that are shown in a relatively subtle way, if you think about it. Like, most movies, when they have, you know, a character and they're showing off a flaw in the character, it's like, you know, they have them shoot a dog, literally. But even though the trailer for the Marble Hornets in the film project Marble Hornets is kind of a joke by all means, it still gives it, you know, this air of believability. Like, you could believe that someone actually made this for a college project.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess if we want to talk some more about Marble Hornets, we can go on to, like... And since we were talking about the trailer to Marble Hornets, we can talk about the actual Marble Hornets movie that was made and was very bad, to say the least.
Always watching.
I did not get to see it. So
Same here.
I am completely blank on this
Okay,
one.
then none of us has seen it. I think...
I've seen the Nightmine video about it.
Yeah.
The thumbnail.
I saw that it was a thing. That's about as much as I saw.
The
I
thumbnail.
saw it was on Hulu or something.
Yeah, the thumbnail for Nightmine's video on the Marble Hornets video very prominently features the word lies.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big heads up on what the overall quality of the Marble Hornets movie is.
Well, I mean, it was basically a cash grab based off the.
I don't remember.
Series.
Was THAC involved with the making of the Marble Hornets movie, or was it like just some other?
Well, I think they had THAC on there.
They went to go to the set and like talk to the actors and stuff. So I think they were pretty.
They were advisors.
They were at least a little bit involved in it. I don't know how far of an extent they had a hand in it, though.
Yeah.
I sound like a stalker.
It was all really dumb, that whole thing. I don't think we really need to talk about it because none of us have seen the movie.
We haven't seen it, and it's a movie, not necessarily an ARG.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's related to anything like that. It's not like Cloverfield or anything.
Oh, whew. That's gonna be another episode entirely.
Yeah, Cloverfield and Cloverfield Lane, which came out recently.
10 Cloverfield Lane also had a little bit of an ARG to it, but it wasn't near as grandiose as the original Cloverfield.
I don't know. 10
But
Cloverfield Lane had John Goodman in it. That's pretty grandiose.
I mean, it was... The film itself was pretty grandiose, and I liked both films, but I think 10 Cloverfield Lane is stronger than, just plain old Cloverfield. But
yeah.
I'm talking about, in terms of the ARG aspect, the original Cloverfield, it was... again, we're getting off topic. This is the episode where, HyperThermal is sitting on his rocking chair reminiscing about the good old days. It's going to be another episode.
Yeah.
Right now we're talking about our pal Slendy.
Yes.
Well, I think it's
good old tall and faceless.
Well, with how long this has been, I think it's going to be a 3-parter talking about SlenderMan. But
yeah, hey, 3-parter for the big 3. Part 1 would be Marble Hornets.
Yeah, this.
Part 2
would be
something else.
Everyman Hybrid, I think.
Yeah.
And then part 3.
Part 3 is Tribe 12.
Which I don't have any... I have some experience with Tribe 12, but I did not watch the whole thing, so I'll have to warn about that.
Actually, Tribe 12 is the one that I finished, but it's been like 2 years since I've seen any of it, so I'm going to have to go back.
I'll try to catch on.
Refresh some things.
I think actually Tribe 12 is still ongoing, like Everyman Hybrid is.
Well, yeah, but Everyman Hybrid took a big break, and they're working on the film now, which we'll talk about next time. Yeah, that's pretty...
Also going to be talking about Habit next time, who is probably my favorite Slenderverse character.
I think before... And yeah, I agree. Habit's really great, especially his theme song. But we can talk about that next time. What, maybe before we should end it off, we should talk about, like, the general, like, SlenderMan community relating to Marble Hornets, because I kind of alluded to something earlier, and that's the whole obsession with proxies that started up around, after Marble Hornets started.
I think this could just be me not being as in tune with the Slenderverse as, I should be for this discussion. I think the whole idea of proxies was developed more by the other 2 of the big 3, Everyman Hybrid and Tribe 12. Especially Tribe 12 because, like, the main story of Tribe 12 is, Noah is being hunted by, the proxies, who are just basically semi-mindless drones that work for SlenderMan.
Well, yeah, that's fair enough. But I mean, I was more talking about how the weird thing about Marble Hornets, where it doesn't really have any characters like that, yet somehow, like, characters that were, by the end, kind of obviously not controlled by SlenderMan, became one of some of the more popular characters that were supposedly controlled by SlenderMan. Like, people like talking about that with like Masky and all that.
Yeah, Masky and Hoodie.
They weren't. I mean, I didn't think that Masky was really controlled by SlenderMan by the time I finished watching the series. I don't really. But then again, I also saw Nightmine's video too, and he agrees.
I don't know. I think that's the impression you're meant to have. Like, when you first see Masky, it's ambiguous. You're thinking, is this guy being mind controlled by the faceless guy? Is he another guy altogether? Is he actually the faceless guy, but just feels like wearing a mask this time around?
Well, he's too short and stumpy. And I'm not trying to be mean to Tim, but he couldn't be SlenderMan.
I mean, the operator is fairly supernatural, so it's not too much of a stretch to assume that he can make himself shorter.
Well, actually, to be fair, I mean, I used to sort of associate SlenderMan kind of with the Lovecraft character Nylar Hoptep, I believe you can pronounce it.
Yeah, that character.
Because... Yeah.
Like, he's sort of like the Lovecraft mythos's version of Loki or Lucifer, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's
kind of.
What?
I guess.
Well, I mean, I associated like SlenderMan with Nyarlathotep because I'd say Nyarlathotep was the most human of the like elder gods, and I mean that's. It's very hard to call him human in any respect, but he was the only one that was able to like actively take a form similar to human beings and interact with them with like human speech and stuff. And I mean that, like that, and like SlenderMan being able to like have like tentacles, which like the black tendrils kind of reminded me of Nyarlathotep's depiction, as well as the facelessness, because Nyarlathotep, if you read about him both from Lovecraft and the expanded mythos, is known for having different forms described as masks. Well, it felt like it was sort of appropriate, but I don't really see that expanded elsewhere in the whole mythos for SlenderMan, though.
Yeah, I'd say SlenderMan's like resemblance to that sort of figure is strongest in Tribe 12, as we're going to be talking about later on, because I think Tribe 12 is like the video series that started the trend of him having the tendrils.
Yeah, but anyway, I guess we should sign off because it's been like 30 minutes or something now. Half an hour.
Let's take
all right. I have a wrap-up question before we go.
Okay.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So I've been thinking about this since people like to consider SlenderMan part of the creepypasta kind of genre. Which other, say, icon pasta would you rather see kind of step up to the plate and take on the challenge of an ARG?
Ooh, that's This is going to be a really strange answer from me, but I think some of my favorite creepypastas don't necessarily focus on a character, but they focus on places. No End House and
No End House would be very interesting to see.
And the disappearance of Ashley, Kansas, and I think, I'm remembering there was another house type thing that actually is more of an entity than a location. It's called the House of
Diana House.
Yes, that one.
Oh, I think
that one actually.
It was kind of an ARG.
Yeah, it was. So that's another potential episode. Thank you. You're
Oh, yeah.
welcome, Day.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. That's one of my favorite
Yeah.
like creepypastas just in general, actually.
And then we can get depressed that the movie deal isn't going anywhere.
And the Tetris one is.
Yeah, that's my answer. Eldritch, what's your answer for Try's question?
Well, the audio actually kind of cut out when she asked it. Can you say it again?
Oh, her question was, since Slenderman is, related to creepypasta in a way, what sort of creepypasta subject matter, like which creepypasta story, location, or character do you think would make for a really good ARG?
Well, I think the go-to is my absolute favorite and like one of the ones that introduced me to the whole thing of creepypasta, that being Candle Cove, because that, like you said, that's more about a location.
Actually, no, Candle Cove is...
It's more about the show, really.
Well, yeah, but...
Yeah.
But that's
you're kind of getting
collection.
your wish coming this October.
Yeah.
It's a TV show, which I'm excited about because it is Candle Cove.
But I think part of the reason why I liked it so much was because of the like strange atmosphere it had going on really throughout the whole thing. Like how it had a sort of innocence that was disturbing in its innocence, to put it in a way.
Yeah, it had... Because, if you know how it ends, it makes sense why it has that sort of disturbing innocence to it.
It's like, I'd say it's like,
Yeah.
to get a little Freudian here, like the horror of the id, kind of, in the way it's presented.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Candle Cove ARG would be really good. So, Chris Straub, maybe you can, like, make Local 58 and Candle Cove into like an expanded ARG universe, set up deals with Disney, have
I
a million...
expect puppets. There better be puppets or I will not be happy.
I actually
there's
like
gonna be
puppets.
puppets.
There
If
has
Disney
to be puppets.
Disney allowed like practical effects for the new Star Wars movie, so there's gonna be puppets.
Yeah.
I love puppets. Puppets are the best.
I like puppets, like I like claymation, because there's something inherently uncanny valley about both of those things.
You think that they both have this sort of uncanny valley aspect to them, right?
Yeah. And that's part of why I enjoy them, actually.
I personally think that claymation and stop motion is more unsettling than puppetry because, unless you're, like, in John Carpenter's The Thing, most puppetry, you can kind of tell it's sort of like, oh, it's just a person's hand with cloth over it.
Yes. That's
Most
fair.
of the time.
But I definitely say that I'm more creeped out by Chicken Run than I am by the Muppets. But I think speaking of Aardman, I think they took advantage well of this sort of creepy character in a lot of the shorts that they did, because they specialized in claymation. And I think part of the reason why claymation is so uncanny, because a lot of the times it's either within its own reality, unlike puppets, which kind of have to be like separated into like a stage or some like sphere with like actual people, while claymation can be within its own built-up world of clay, or it can be something that is like invading into like our existence because it has to use stop motion, and we can kind of tell with our eyes that that's a different way of moving than how we usually do, even if it's similar to the way that our eyes perceive things.
That is a really fresh and interesting way to look at, what makes stop motion so unsettling. And to wrap it up, Try. It's time for you to answer your own question, unless you did, and I wasn't listening because I'm an idiot.
Okay, so for my answer, I'm going to say I would be very interested to see something done with Laughing Jack of all things. Because I love clowns. I love Laughing Jack as a character, and I love his story, and I love Snuffbomb's work not only as a writer but as a voice actor and as a makeup artist. I really admire him, and I think it'd be really hard to do, but the payoff would be worth it.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see, a Laughing Jack ARG, maybe being really compelling because, there's the story, the origin of Laughing Jack, and where he's kind of like an imaginary friend, guardian angel gone wrong. And, there's something very tragic and sympathetic about that, because even though, he's going around and killing kids, he doesn't really know any better, because, in a weird way, he's a kid himself.
Yeah. I think that could be interesting for, a video series.
For me, the most interesting part of the story is that his personality changes as Isaac's does, which is, if you think about it, really freaky, but the way it's set up, it reminds me almost of like a tulpa.
Yeah.
In that kind of imaginary, but not completely kind of way.
Well, I think an interesting thing that could be done if you wanted to do an ARG or interactive fiction series about it is maybe you could imply that with any person he latches onto, his personality changes in turn according to theirs. So as the thing goes on, it acts more and more like the main character of that. That would be pretty interesting.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's something I
that would be kind of like
thought
Silent
about
Hill,
writing
actually.
out myself, but I'm not that great at script writing, so it might be something that I get around to. But
Well, you're working on your
seriously
novel
doubt
now.
it. So if anybody out there is listening to this and thinks this is a cool idea,
that's a valid answer.
For all that is Slime Beast, please do it, because that would be the coolest thing ever.
Okay.
Just the hardest
A Whimsywood ARG
would
would
be
be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
the hardest part would
sorry.
be amusement parks and being able to set up the rides and everything. Which, if you're in Ohio, Geauga Lake is for sale if anybody's interested.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm just teasing people at this point.
If we want to mention something sort of alternate reality game related that Slime Beast is working on, I think you could say the Faceless Corporation is something like that. But maybe we'll touch on that later.
A little bit. It's sort of I see the Faceless Corporation as Slime Beast's take on the SCP Foundation.
Yeah.
Where
that's kind of how I see it too.
Where it's sort of, it has some similar things to an ARG where the narrative is dictated in part by the viewers, but in a different sense, so that it's this entirely new aspect of the world that the viewers are making instead of just deciding the outcome of events.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should sign off now.
Yeah, so that's the end of this pretty rambly episode. I'm HyperThermal. Other people, please.
I'm Eldritchhat. And
I'm Three Swords, or Try.
And goodbye.
And regards.
Goodbye.
You gotta say regards because that's how To The Arc ends their videos, right?
Yeah.